You know how sometimes a book just sort of pops up and suddenly you hear people talking about it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that seems to be happening with The Immortal by this pseudonymous author, R.L. Wise.
Right. There's definitely a buzz. And we found this really compelling interview with Mr. Asadoorian. He's the CEO of AERC.
And he's incredibly enthusiastic about this book, really
Yeah,
passionate.
totally. So that's our focus for this deep dive. We want to, unpack the core ideas, the main claims that Mr. Asadoorian talks about in that interview.
Yeah, basically distill it down for you, give you a clear sense of what he thinks makes this book so, well, potentially groundbreaking.
And he's someone who's clearly deeply convinced by it.
For sure. Now, he's clear he's not the author, R.L. Wise.
No, definitely not.
But his belief in the book's importance, it really comes through.
It does. And look, some of the claims are pretty out there. We should acknowledge that.
Absolutely. So just to be clear up front, we're focusing on relaying the information from the interview itself. We're exploring what he said.
Right. So you can listen, consider it, and, make up your own mind.
Okay, so let's get into it. Where does he start?
Well, he kicks off with a really strong statement. He says, essentially, everybody needs this book. He calls it a book of wisdom.
A book of wisdom, okay.
And that title, The Immortal, isn't accidental. It's supposedly about guiding you to perfect yourself more and more.
Perfect yourself. That's a big goal.
It is, but then he adds something intriguing. He says this path to perfection is a lot easier than you think.
That does grab your attention, doesn't it? Easier than you think.
And it gets more specific. He claims the book shows you how to directly connect with forces that give you healing, that give you wisdom.
Forces? Like what?
He doesn't explicitly define them in this part, but implies they're beneficial energies. Healing, wisdom, and even power to do good.
Okay, power to do good. But is there a flip side?
Apparently, yes. He mentions a warning in the book about using this power for, well, evil. There are negative consequences.
So kind of built-in ethical compass.
Seems like it. And that ties into this other principle he brings up, inescapable universal justice.
Universal justice. What does he mean by that?
The idea is basically that everything you do, good or bad, has a consequence. Always.
Even if you don't see it immediately.
Exactly. He says the universe traces it. Good deeds get rewarded eventually. Bad deeds have repercussions. No escape.
Wow. Okay. That's a foundational claim right there. What about the author, R.L. Wise? You said they're anonymous.
Yeah, completely anonymous. Asadoorian describes them as a philanthropist, someone who apparently had this profound, life-changing epiphany.
An epiphany, like a sudden realization.
That's the idea. And this epiphany was apparently so powerful, it led directly to writing The Immortal.
Why? What was the motivation?
According to Asadoorian, R.L. Wise felt the world was starving for it, starving for this kind of wisdom, especially amidst what they saw as, lies and hypocrisy everywhere.
So a sense of mission almost.
Definitely. A desire to give people something potentially unbelievable. He uses the words miraculous and wonderful wisdom.
Miraculous and wonderful. High praise.
And he suggests this wisdom isn't just intellectual. It comes from the author's own pretty intense experiences.
Like what kind of experiences?
Asadoorian mentions hundreds of experiences, including, and this is his term, tremendous paranormal experiences.
Paranormal.
And also things some might describe as encounters with the Holy Spirit. But he stresses it's not about making money from this.
Right. You mentioned philanthropy.
Yeah, any donations or proceeds are apparently earmarked for charity.
Okay, so that's the author's side. But Asadoorian himself seems deeply affected.
Oh, absolutely. He shares his own personal testimony, which is quite remarkable.
How so?
Well, he claims that applying the principles from the book has directly helped him defy a cancer prognosis.
Seriously? He claims it helped with cancer.
That's what he states in the interview. He even mentions doing a 2-week fast while applying these principles, which adds another layer to his conviction.
That's a very strong personal endorsement. Does he say how the book works then? Beyond just belief.
He does try to explain that. He argues it's different from other spiritual books or teachers.
How is it different?
He says most authors can only describe their spiritual experiences, but The Immortal, he claims, actually reveals the how. It gives you principles you can replicate.
So it's like a how-to guide for spiritual experiences?
Sort of, yeah. He even explains how historical figures like Jesus or Buddha achieved their states, that the book provides that underlying mechanism.
That's a huge claim, explaining Jesus and Buddha.
It is, and central to this is the concept of the supreme being.
Okay, not God necessarily.
He prefers supreme being, feeling God is too loaded. He equates the supreme being with reality itself. Everything.
Everything, like the chair I'm sitting on,
Yeah.
the air.
Pretty much. He says everything is alive, interconnected, and constantly communicating, just maybe at different speeds. He uses tectonic plates as an analogy. They seem still, but are moving incredibly slowly.
Okay, so reality itself is this conscious, communicating supreme being.
That's the concept presented. And the book apparently contains a specific type of meditation designed to help you make direct contact with this being.
And that contact does what?
Potentially triggers your own epiphany, similar to the author's. That's the implication.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Does he give any concrete examples of these unusual experiences the author had?
He does. He reads an excerpt about something the author calls a nimbus.
A nimbus, like a halo.
Similar, but he's very specific. It's not a general aura, but a radiance coming specifically from the head.
Okay.
And the description in the excerpt is incredibly detailed. It supposedly happened back in 1969.
Oh, wow.
The author writes about being outside on the coldest night of the year, but feeling no cold, even with their midsection exposed. Just this tingling sensation that got stronger with the wind.
Strange. And the nimbus.
Then he describes seeing it, a flat plane of light around his head. 3 distinct concentric circles.
Circles of light. What colors?
Blood red, then sunshine yellow, then ultraviolet. Each exactly 1 inch wide, and they didn't overlap or blend. Very precise.
That is specific. Red, yellow, ultraviolet. 1 inch each.
Yeah. And he says the colors would like shimmer or shudder based on his thoughts or emotions. Surprise made them ripple. Composure made them smooth out.
So the light itself was communicating his inner state.
That's how it's described. And interestingly, the author then predicts that science, which can now detect faint auras, will eventually discover this specific 3-ring halo.
A prediction for future science. Bold.
Very. And the author interprets this whole nimbus experience as achieving a kind of crown through trust in the supreme being, a crown better than any earthly kingdom. It's described as joyful healing.
And Asadoorian backs this up somehow.
He adds a little anecdote about his nephew seeing the author around that time and commenting on how incredibly healthy and vibrant they looked.
So health and vitality are linked to this.
That seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah.
Asadoorian connects the book's principles to potentially increase longevity and better health overall.
Like living longer.
He even references the, really long lifespans you read about in early biblical texts. He suggests that might be possible.
But most people fear old age because of declining health.
Exactly. And Asadoorian says the book addresses that very fear. The implication is you wouldn't just live longer, you'd live longer well.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a lot to take in. If people are intrigued, how did they find this book? Is it even out?
According to the end of the interview, yes, it should be available. Asadoorian mentions it's a big book, almost 1,000 pages.
Wow, that's hefty.
Yeah, so they're planning to release it in 3 volumes initially.
Okay. And where can you get it?
He gives a website, yz4.life.
yz4.life.
Yep. He says it stands for Wise for Life. yz4.life.
Got it. Any other access points?
Interestingly, he mentions the possibility of free copies for people who genuinely can't afford it.
Really?
Yeah, and encourages donations and volunteers to help spread the word, which kind of fits with that philanthropic angle of the author.
Right. Who does Asadoorian think will be drawn to this book first?
He expects initial interest from people who already consider themselves enlightened.
Okay. The spiritually inclined.
Yeah, and maybe those who feel something's missing in their traditional religious path, though he's careful, not to bash religion directly.
Just offering something. More.
Something for those who want to go all the way, as he puts it, on their spiritual journey.
How does he position it relative to, say, established religion or science?
Well, he suggests that while all religions might have flaws, this book offers the meat of the truth.
The core essence.
Kind of. And with science, he makes a fascinating claim that the book fulfills science.
Fulfill science? How?
By explaining things science can't yet explain, like the universe being endless. He points out that science accepts some things on faith, too.
That's an interesting perspective.
And it all comes back to what he says was the author's main epiphany, that wisdom is the root of all knowledge. That's the core.
Wisdom is the foundation. And this ties back to the perfect justice idea.
It seems so. He reiterates that belief in perfect universal justice, despite how chaotic the world looks.
How does that work, according to the book?
The idea seems to be that every thought, every action leaves an imprint. It's all recorded, reviewable.
And the Supreme Being manages this cosmic accounting.
That's the implication. The universe itself, this living supreme being, ensures justice plays out perfectly, even if we can't see how.
And that's why he prefers supreme being to God, because God comes with too much baggage.
Exactly. He feels supreme being better captures this idea of the living essence of everything, constantly communicating with us, often through nature.
Right. And the meditation technique in the book is key to connecting with that.
Yes, that's presented as the practical path towards potentially having your own epiphany, your own direct understanding of this being.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Based on this deep dive into the Asadoorian interview.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
We covered some pretty extraordinary territory. This book, The Immortal, claims are huge. Personal perfection, healing forces, direct guidance.
The author's alleged paranormal stuff, that very specific Nimbus description.
And Asadoorian's own powerful testimony about his health. It's a very compelling picture he paints, though perhaps challenging for some listeners to accept.
Definitely. And it's really crucial to remember this has all been filtered through Mr. Asadoorian's perspective in this specific interview.
Right. His enthusiasm is undeniable. His personal story is powerful. But ultimately,
You, the listener, need to approach it critically. Do your own thinking, your own research if it sparks your interest.
absolutely. And if you do want to check it out further, the book is The Immortal by R.L. Wise. And the website Asadoorian mentioned again was
YZ4.life. YZ4.life. He said it should be available now.
okay, YZ4.life,
You know, it leaves you with a pretty big question to ponder, doesn't it?
which is
Well, and it's a big if for many, but if these principles in the Immortal actually do offer a real path to better well-being, deeper understanding, what would that mean?
what would the world look like if that kind of knowledge became, widespread and actually applied?
Exactly. It's definitely food for thought, a provocative idea to leave things on.
It certainly is. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Looking forward to the next one.